We spent the rest of the car ride going over strategy, technique, ways to best combine our abilities for what we had to deal with. But eventually, there was no more time for talk. We made it all the way to New Dawn City, traveling down dirt roads, a seemingly endless amount of them, finally coming to a stop a good distance away from an enormous mansion. Even in the distance, it seemed massive. Victor pulled off the road, actually driving into the woods a bit, to be less conspicuous, I suppose. Luckily, there was enough room in between trees and things like that to make our way through, going far enough into the woods that we knew the car wouldn't be seen. After which, I got out of the car along with Victor, grabbing my bag, and Victor began to make his way to the trunk of the car, opening it up to see the fine red fabric interior. Even the trunk was extremely well maintained. Usually people use trunks for stowing, don't clean them that well, but the trunk in this car was immaculate. I think he cleans it as well as the rest of the car. After opening the trunk and seeing the bare bottom with nothing in it, I wondered why he opened it. But then he traced his finger across the fabric of the trunk, muttering a few strange words that seemed like gibberish. And suddenly, the entire trunk began to alight with strange symbols glowing gold into the fabric, patterns rippling and moving around. Suddenly, the bottom of the trunk began to fall away, as if falling into some bottomless pit. The entire thing just looking like a black void into nothing. But then, slowly but surely, the trunk began to raise back up, coming back into view from the shadow and darkness that it had sunken into. But it didn't come all the way back up to the level that it was. No, it came back up to where you could see it again. But now the interior space of the trunk had vastly increased. It was so big it looked like you could just stand in it, filled with countless weapons and objects, some of which I recognized: brass knuckles, guns, crossbows, knives. Others I couldn't make heads or tails of. I didn't know what they were or what they were used for. And seemingly with a wave of his hand, the entire contents of the trunk would simply change, becoming an entirely new set of objects, weapons, and equipment. Holy shit, I said, staring into it. "You have a magic trunk?" I asked, my book bag over my shoulder, but still wide-eyed at the concept. "Yes, man, I have a magic trunk. It's kind of hard to carry around a buttload of weaponry when there are things like cops who ask questions about those kind of things. Cops who don't mind illegal searches if you look questionable. And for some reason, they always think I look questionable," he said, still rifling through the trunk. From it, he pulled a myriad of holsters, an old-style Western holster with what appeared to be a classic revolver in it, and looked like an antique, but an exceptionally well-maintained one. The shine on it was perfection, and it had very detailed engravings into it, once again with strange symbols and markings carved in. He also pulled out several other guns, placing them into holsters on his ankles, his sides, a large knife stowed away on his belt, what appeared to be something like a leather fanny pack of sorts, that he stuffed with all sorts of strange things. Something that looked like brass knuckles, small vials of liquids of different types and varieties, some glowing, others just strange and having different colors, seeming like they had small amounts of material floating in them, some sparkly even, and even a few freaking grenades. Holy crap, he has grenades. And finally, last but not least, two objects. One very large shotgun, pump action, with an attachment on the side filled with shells. But neither the shotgun nor the shells really looked ordinary. The shotgun itself was also engraved with strange markings, and the shells were not the typical kind that you'd see at the store. No, they looked custom. And last but not least, a freaking sword. Once again, a very nice looking sword. Polished to a shine, the damn thing had jewels encrusted on it. He slid both the shotgun and the long sword into separate holsters on his back, and then started looking over at me. Well, any time now. That mansion over there happens to be our target destination. So, it's time for you to put on your super suit, guy. Snap, snap. Get with the armor. You don't have time to be daydreaming about my magic trunk. Vampires to kill, man. Yeah, I gotcha, I replied, putting down my book bag and unzipping it. And with little more than a thought, my suit began to rise from it, as if it were moving on its own accord, beginning to attach itself, me stepping in where I need to, making little motions in order to put my hands and feet, head in appropriately, as the suit sealed itself up around me, locking airtight. "Whoa," Victor said, looking at me as I finished putting on the suit. "You got a new suit? You didn't tell me you got a new suit." "I gotta be honest, that looks pretty freaking badass. In fact, I'm kinda jealous. I think I might want one." "Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. You have no idea how difficult this thing was to make. Trust me," I said, making sure I was comfortable in the suit, stretching out a bit, moving around, making sure nothing was bunching up. I was, after all, wearing my clothes underneath the suit, and this was going to be its first real test drive. I didn't want anything affecting my performance, like an unexpected effect of wearing clothes underneath the armor. "Okay, remember what I told you. This isn't a game, Kevin. This woman will kill you without a second thought, without hesitation. She's a freaking monster. Don't trust anything she says. Don't trust anything you see. Believe nothing but that you know nothing, and fight to kill. She's not exactly human anymore. Technically, she's already dead. So don't get all squeamish when it comes to dealing that final blow if you're the one who has to do it. Because she ain't gonna be squeamish about it. Trust me," Victor said, raising his hand and slamming the trunk closed, at which point I saw an unfamiliar face on the other side of the car. "Victor, move!" I shouted, grabbing his arm and pulling him closer to me till he was at my side. "What the hell are you?" Victor announced, shocked that I grabbed out at him. But as he looked across to the other side of the car, "Holy crap! Ugh, it's you," Victor said frustratedly. "You damn near scared the hell out of me. What are you doing here? If you didn't notice, I'm kinda busy right now. This is not the time for any of your nonsense. So why don't you just magically poof off somewhere, do the weird things that you do, whatever the hell that happens to be, and let me get back to work." "Oh, come on, Victor. Don't be so harsh. I think we have a perfectly functional work relationship. There's no need to be coarse with each other," this strange man said. He seemed to be an average build man, maybe a little on the slender side, like me, wearing an exceptionally nice suit, solid black, with a red undershirt and tie, all looking very high quality, a very fancy looking cane in hand. He took no time at all, walking forward a few steps, hopping up and taking a seat on the trunk of Victor's car, crossing his legs and beginning to look relaxed. "Well, Victor, it's nice to see you too. At least one of us should say it."